A bit of talk about DCE and his future here on the northern beaches.
Daly Cherry-Evans, at 36 years of age, basically achieved everything in the game. He wants one more premiership ring.
Breaking news, DCE tells Manly he's leaving the club at season's end. So this is big.
As my career comes to an end, I wanted to take my time, whether that's retiring or playing on. And by cutting ties with Manly this year, then I felt like that was the best chance for me to have freedom throughout the year to take my time to choose.
Daly did speak to us in December. He was going to either retire, go overseas.
You know, Manly said that they weren't going to offer anything unless another club offered anything. Those offers didn't come through from the other clubs, so Manly didn't need to offer anything, which was fine.
It's live on air as we speak right now. Breaking news, Mestroff and Penn have just contacted Fox League and said they're going to counter this with a 2-year offer. So this is far from over by the sounds of it.
We just want to reiterate the point that the Manly Ringa Seagulls this morning coined a 2-year offer to Daly Cherry-Evans for the 26-27 season.
Was there an offer on the table of late?
Not until NRL 360 tonight.
We made an offer yesterday. It wasn't a knee-jerk reaction. We'd been speaking about that for a while.
Would you accept that?
Respectfully, no, because as I said, I've been sleeping on this decision since December. Yeah, no animosity there.
There's no animosity between Daly and the club.
So that's a dramatic call to make. To me, it's not only just agitating.
It suggests there's something else going on.
It suggests something else is going on here.
There is no problem with Daly and the club. There's no problem with Daly and me, personally. There's no problem with Daly and the coach.
And this shouldn't have exploded to the story it has. I reckon they could have put this away some time ago.
He reiterated that it would be his last year at Manly. We respected that.
I mean, Daly said last night, I was in the press conference, he said there's no animosity with the Manly club. There's no issues with the Manly club, they know where he stands. But this would suggest there is animosity there.
I don't think he's still certain around what he wants to do. He doesn't know if he wants to retire. He's got a coaching offer from us to coach beyond that, but it's his decision.
Cherry bombshell, the biggest story in rugby league in a very, very long time. Let's bring the journos in, Paul Crawley and Dean Bulldog Richie. I'll start with this. Were Manly blindsided by DCE's bombshell announcement, Gordy?
Well, I think that they were. To see, you know, to have your star player, the guy that's been there for 10 years, their last premiership halfback, go on a show and announce that this is going to be his last year and he's going to leave the club. Hence why they rang into this show.
How could you be blindsided from your star player, your longest-serving club player, your captain, who has been debating whether to play on or not since last year, and you get blindsided on a day when he's going on a TV show? I just don't see how they've stuffed this up, Gordon. They had ample time. He's in their backyard. He's one of the top 3, if not 4, top playmakers in the game.
Yep.
Mestroff says it wasn't a knee-jerk reaction. He hasn't been lowballed. Yes, he has. That offer yesterday, that's a lowball offer. For a top 3 or 4 halfback in the game to be offered $750,000 a year, I don't care how old he is, he should have been offered at least $1 million. So that's not lowballing.
Do we believe that they were going to wait until round 6? Because that's what we've heard.
Look, I'll tell you what happened. In December, they opened up very preliminary talks, which was going to be a 1-year contract with a 2-year club option, second year. Cherry then said to them, look, I'm not sure whether I want to play anymore, and I might move overseas. Manly then said, we'll respect that and we'll back off, which they did. In the meantime, there was some very informal dialogue going on, and in that dialogue, Gordon, you're spot on. There was an unwritten agreement that they would see how Cherry was after round 6. How was his body holding up mentally, and how was his form? Bingo, after round 3, Manly's waiting for round 6. Cherry comes out last night on national television and says, I am quitting the club. He didn't tell Tony Mestroff, and he didn't tell Scott Penn. So that's how they were blindsided.
So why? That's the next question, isn't it? Why? Like, again, you've got to look at the management here, Dog, because it's their job to be on board with their best player. If you're dealing with a bloke with a profile like Cherry-Evans and his quality of play and what he brings to your club, you've got to know what he wants and you've got to find a way to get him.
What I find interesting and a little bit strange, and putting myself in DCE shoes and even my management cap on for a little bit, he was free to negotiate November 1, right, of last year. By December, he told them that he was moving on, right? So in that month, he gave them a month time to negotiate a deal, which apparently was only a 1-year deal. But he didn't give them much more than a month to come up with a 2-year, 3-year, whatever it may be, which suggests to me something is going on there. Like, if he wanted to stay there, he could have taken even a few more months now to come up with an agreement and a deal that would have suited both him and the club. So it tells me that if he was so quick to make a call to move on from Manly, he wanted to go. He wanted to go last year, and there's got to be a reason for it.
The reason is, I have no doubt that he's got another club and they're paying him top dollar. And if he can get that money, good luck to him.
Yeah.
That's why he's going. Manly know it. They're not stupid. They fear that he is walking out the door because he's got big money elsewhere, and I reckon that'll be announced in the next 3 to 4 weeks.
To defend DCE, though, in saying what I did, I spoke to a lot of officials today at a few clubs, some heavy hitters who had spoken to hierarchy at Manly throughout last year, and apparently they were shopping him around and suggesting they were not going to re-sign him during last season, which therefore has probably got the ears pricked on a number of teams that have circled over the last few months, and there could be some stuff going on behind closed doors. But the suggestion to me is DCE, knowing, I don't know him that well, but I know a lot of people that are really close to him. He's big on principles, he's big on values, and maybe none of this just sat well with him, and he made the call that he wasn't going to stick around.
Mate, the quote he said last night where he said there hadn't been an offer and the club had said to him, if you do get an offer, bring it back to us. Like, I don't know what you think, but I would see that as disrespectful.
Why?
Taking someone for granted because Geordie
wasn't going to play.
But regardless of that, he is talking about playing. They haven't done their job, Bulldog. They had an opportunity. Why would he bring that quote out if it wasn't something that had played on his mind?
But like, listen to
and
him
if it played
talk.
on his mind, it's cost him one of the best players in the comp.
He said he's not sure whether he wants to play on, whether he's going to retire.
I
He's not sure.
I don't believe a word of that. You're telling me that he's considering retirement or going to Super League? That's bullshit. Like that's garbage. He is playing
why would
on.
he say it then?
Well, this is the thing.
Why would he say
it's
it?
either a ploy
So
by
there
him or
must
do you honestly think he's going to retire or play in Super League next year?
Not the way he's playing.
Exactly.
Not with the Dylan Brown deal that's just gone down.
That was never going to happen.
But you talk him out of it if he was thinking that, the way he's been playing.
No, because sometimes you give him the respect. So when he's played 10 years and he's played the way he is, and he said, let's talk in round 6, you give him the respect. Hey, mate, and if there's a deal that comes along the way, bring it to us.
I think Daly wanted to manage the narrative here, and he's got in early. But that's irritated Manly. Take it as read, they're not happy. Tony Mestroff's a very good CEO. I was there at the conference today, and he's saying what he has to say because he's the front man of that club.
There must be animosity.
Take it as read, they are filthy.
So there must be animosity if he doesn't go to the club
animosity.
and he doesn't tell him,
Why?
and there's no joint press conference.
There's also animosity on both sides, Gordy. This is Manly's window to win a premiership. Cherry's last thing he wants to do is win another premiership. So he's got 2 years in front of him. It's his home club. He could retire a one-club legend. It's all there at Manly. He says, I don't want to play
That's
that.
my point. There's got to be something wrong there because he's got a strong team where he can win a premiership. He wants to finish on a high note, which is why he'll probably consider one of the premier clubs that needs a 7 at the moment that can take them to premiership contention. Now, I want to come to you with this, Crawls. He mentioned that the club said, that they'd only offer him a deal if a rival club did. What do you think of that?
Well, that's what I spoke about a minute ago. Like, I don't know how you could not see that as disrespectful. For everything that he's put in for that club over, 14, 15 years, to have that put to you, if you get another... Well, if that was the case and what he's done, I actually think what he's done is gone away and it's shown great self-belief and conviction in his own ability that he's gone out and said, OK, if that was the case and they weren't going to offer him a contract until another club come, well, he's gone, you know what, I'll go and find something and instead of going back to Manly, I'll go forward and I'll show you what I can do. And if that's what he's done, it's a great show of dignity.
When the media started to push and prod a bit about Cherry's future, Manly then said, you know what, I think he's going to play on. On Monday at midday, Peter Gentle, the Manly recruitment guru, picked up the phone and rang DCE's agent, Joe Weeby. That's when the conversation started. 9 hours later, Cherry-Evans says, I'm not playing for Manly. It was deemed to be a knee-jerk reaction for Manly, but it wasn't. Manly were on the phone that day, and the offer was tabled this morning.
Was he told at midday yesterday? Because that's what Manly are saying. They put an offer to his agent at 12 o'clock, I think it was, around yesterday, and then later that evening he's on another TV station saying that he didn't receive that or he was unaware of it until he'd watched this show and seen that Manly had put a 2-year deal to him.
Well, Manly is telling me that they, as I said, sent Peter General to meet Joe Weeby. So I have no reason to why they would tell us a fib. But it was extraordinary the fact that Daly...
So who's telling the truth and who's lying here?
Because I don't know who's telling the truth, Braith. I wish I could tell you. But it wasn't a knee-jerk reaction because Manly were onto it at midday that day.
It shows you the separation within, though, again. Despite the fact that they say there's no animosity, there has to be. And the concern now will be what will it do to the rest of their season?
Do you reckon it'll blow the season up?
Well, I don't know. It's got the possibility if they can't, or it could galvanise the players. But it's going to create problems for someone, whether it be the player or the management.
If he can sell it to the players that I'm going to retire, I've had a great time here and I think I've got 20 more games in me, I reckon they will galvanise.
You'll see it in the players, I think, Gordy.
If he's going to another club...
I see no reason why it wouldn't galvanise them. He's been a club legend for a long time. He seems to have a great relationship with the players that he plays with. They've had a really, fantastic start to the year.
No one likes your teammates leaving.
Yeah, no one likes your teammates leaving, and I suppose time will tell, right? But they all want to win. And
Well,
they want to win the
absolutely.
comp. And now he's leaving. This is their last chance because they've got no one. We'll get to this maybe a bit later, but they've got no one really to replace him. They're going to shuffle the decks a little bit. I said we'll get to that, but you talk about premiership windows. It is now. It is this year, and it is with him leaving.